In this video, we are refreshing one of our most popular tutorials for autocomplete search. This is something that can be implemented in many different types of apps. Doesn't matter what industry you're building for, how many users you have. Search is such a core feature for most applications. So we're going to show you in Bubble's latest interface. We've got a cleaner implementation here. Follow along so you can see how to create autocomplete search in your app. Here's the feature that we're going to be building out. I have a single line input on my page, and as I type in a name, let's say Geller, you can see that in real time it starts to filter through my user table so that it can show close matches. Now this is actually an exact match with the last name. If I type in CH, I have some fuzzy matches here. Chandler and Rachel both have CH in their name. If I type in the word sample, we can see that it's actually searching through the email addresses as well, not just the name. And if I type in a term where I'm not going to get any matches, we have a separate display to let me know that. Okay, so I also have built into this, let me search again for Geller. If I select one of my users, we have a system here to show that selection. I can deselect and it will remove it. So once you have the search results, you can do whatever you need from there. But this tutorial is going to walk you through that real-time autocomplete where you can search through multiple properties of any one of your tables. This is not just for your users. This can work for your custom data types as well. All right, so starting with the data structure, we're going to be searching through the user table, specifically within the first name, last name, and the built-in email fields. All of these are text fields here. And again, you can use this whole system with other data types as well. We are using the help of a plugin called Fuzzy Search and Autocomplete. This is a free plugin. This is going to come with a visual element that you can add to the page called Fuzzy Search and Autocomplete. It's also going to come with a reset action that we'll be using as well. Now, in the design, I'm going to walk you through how we've put together our elements. You certainly don't need to design it the exact same way, but this way you know how everything communicates with one another so that you can get that real-time autocomplete effect. Okay, so the first thing I have here is just my primary group that contains everything within it. Down below, I have another group here that I've called group input. This contains my single line input, as well as a group with a repeating group to show my results. The group that contains the repeating group is really just there for a background color, okay? The input, I want to call this one out here. I have added a property ID to this element. If I scroll down to the very bottom of the property editor, you can see ID attribute. I've given it my-users. That's the attribute value that I typed in there. Now, if you don't see this setting here at the bottom of your property editor, go over to your general settings for your application, go to the general sub-tab here. At the very bottom, I think it's literally the very last setting on this screen under advanced options, expose the option to add an ID attribute. Go ahead and check that box. What that will do is expose the ability, as we can see here, to give your visual element a custom attribute. We need this because the plugin element is going to communicate with this input via the ID. All right, so you can put in whatever ID you want. I do suggest you stay away from the word search because a lot of browsers will typically look for that word to help autocomplete things using browser behavior, and that could create a conflict with your custom design here. So my users is what I went with, and then here at the very bottom you can see this sort of invisible element. This is the plugin element called Fuzzy Search and Autocomplete. If you go to your assets list on the left hand side and just start typing in fuzzy, you'll see it there. Okay, so I've added an instance of this to my page. The user's not going to see this, but you do need it on the page in order for this to work. I'm going to walk you through the settings here. So for the data type, you'll select whichever table in your database you want to search through. In my case, it's going to be the user type. Then for the data source, you'll put in the actual list of users that you want to search through. It may not be every user, right? So you can do a search with some constraints if you want. And then you'll select the fields to search through. You have up to 5 slots here. So I've got the first name, I've selected the last name, and the email. Note that these are only the text fields that are available to us for that data type. Now, for having this element communicate with the input, right, so that it knows what to match against, we're going to be using that ID system like I mentioned. So you'll want to check this box and then put in the same ID that you added to the input, okay? Technically, you can also put here in the text to match the input's value. That will also get you the same result. However, with the ID, I find that it's a more responsive result. It's actually more instant feeling. So I like to go with the ID system. Now for the threshold, this is going to help you dictate how close of a match you want the results to be. Remember, this is a fuzzy search, so it's not always going to return an exact match to what the user typed in. The closer your number is to 0, the more perfect of a match it has to be. The closer it is to 1, the fuzzier it will be. Okay, I tend to leave the rest of these settings on their defaults, but you do have a couple of advanced options here that you can play with as well. All right, so down below in my repeating group here, this data source is now going to pull from the plugin element. We're not doing a direct search here. We want the plugin to do the work to return the matches, okay? So type of content is still going to be the same data type, and you'll find your fuzzy search and autocomplete and go to the matches state, and that's going to match your data type because you defined it in the plugin element. As a list, right? It could be a match of one or it could be a match of multiple, but ultimately a repeating group is looking for a list of something in a list structure. And then once you're inside of the repeating group cell, you can design it however you want, just like, a regular repeating group. Okay, real quick here. If you're finding this helpful, we have so much more to teach you in our free extended workshop over at coachingnocodeapps.com/workshop, where we'll guide you through our 4-phased approach for going from idea to app. So if you're looking for a start to finish guide, go ahead and register for it when you're done with this video and you'll get immediate access to the training. I've got the link in the description below and on the screen right now. For now, let's head back to our lesson. Down below that, I have my next group here called selected user. This is just to help us see, if the user wanted to choose one, we'll highlight that in a separate group. You, of course, don't need to have this here. This is more of just an example of what you could do once you have your results. We're going to set up the data source for this group in the workflows when we click on this button. And then the deselect is just going to undo that. Down below that, I have another group here called group no results. By default, this group is hidden. And I should say as well, by default, the selected group is hidden. And by default, the group that contains the search result also hidden. So we have conditions that will make these different groups visible only when the time is right, okay? So for the group search results, the condition is when the fuzzy search and autocomplete matches first item is not empty, meaning we have at least one item there, then we can make this group visible because then we'll actually have something to see. For the selected group, as long as this group's user is not empty, then we can show this. Again, we're going to be sending the data source for this group through the workflow when we click on the select button. So as soon as that happens, the condition will become true and the group will be visible. For the no results found group, there are two things that need to be true at the same time. We want to make sure that the inputs value up at the top is not empty. Right? So this implies that the user is actively performing a search. So if the value is not empty, and the plugin didn't find a match, right? So we've typed something in, but the plugin returns nothing, so first item is empty, then that makes sense to show the group here. For my select button, let's go over to the workflow for that. It's going to do a few things. This is going to run a display data action in my selected user group. Okay, so again, that's that middle group that I had there, this one right here. It's going to basically set the data source of this group. That's what this function here does, display data. Which data to display? In this case, it's the parent group's user, whichever repeating group cell I'm in when I click on that select button. I'm also going to reset the group that contains my input, and I'm also going to reset the plugin element. So you can find those reset actions under element actions here. This is reset group, and then you'll select which group you want. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see reset input, fuzzy search, and autocomplete. Those are important so that once the user has selected something, the actual search part of things gets reset back to the default state where, we don't have any value here. The plugin's value that it's, communicating with is also reset. We don't need to see the matches anymore. And you can see that, let me show you again here. If I select a user, I'm just going to say test. These are 3 email addresses that are matching. And I say select, you see how everything up at the top resets. The input clears out. We don't see the repeating group anymore, right? We take it back to the beginning so that the user can do a fresh search if they want, while still having a selection down below, again, if they want. Maybe I want to switch my selection to Phoebe here, right? So it swaps it out. So in the workflow, again, we're updating the data source of the selected group's user, resetting our group with the input, and then resetting the actual plugin element. For deselection, all we're doing is resetting the group for the selected user. What that means, it's going to take it back to its default state, which is that it has no data source by default. So by resetting it, we essentially clear out the data source. And since there's no user, the condition here fails, and this group becomes invisible once again. And the last point here is to remember to have your collapse when hidden settings enabled for all of your various groups that could be conditionally visible. So for example, if I wanted to do another search here, right, you see how this repeating group, whatever height it is, to display all the results, it's going to increase the height and push everything below it down, right? We don't have any overlapping between the search results and my selected user. And that's because I have that collapse setting enabled, collapse when hidden. So when I'm not seeing the search results, the height of that group collapses and then everything below shifts back up. That gives us a more dynamic, more intuitive interface for our users. So that's this setting right here. I've got this on the group search results. I've got it on group selected user, right? So if I do a new search, okay, notice that the no results found group is right next to my input. I'm not seeing the repeating group with the results, whether they're filled or empty. I'm not seeing that selected user. This shifted all the way up to take this space right below the input because all of these in-between groups are collapsing when hidden. We also have this last group collapsing when hidden as well, just to be consistent with it if I ever wanted to add other designs after it. Again, the collapsing behavior would make it so that we're not seeing any extra white space. All right, there you have it. That's how you can create an autocomplete system for your application. All right, I hope that was helpful. We've got more great lessons coming up for you on the next screen, and don't forget to register for that free extended workshop. The link for that is in the description below.